Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving deep into one of history's most infamous dates, the Ides of March. We all know the famous line, "Et tu, Brute?" and that Julius Caesar was assassinated. But the story you learned in school? That's just the tip of the iceberg. The real story is a gripping tale of political ambition, personal betrayal, and a meticulously planned conspiracy that changed the course of Western civilization forever. So, grab your toga, because we're about to travel back to 44 BC and uncover what really happened on that fateful day in Rome. Let's set the scene. By early 44 BC, Julius Caesar was the most powerful man in the world. He had conquered Gaul, won a brutal civil war, and had been declared dictator perpetuo, dictator for life. To many Romans, especially the common people, he was a hero. He reformed the calendar, offered land to his veterans, and funded grand public works. But to a small, powerful group within the Roman Senate, he was a tyrant in the making. They saw his consolidation of power not as the act of a benevolent leader, but as the death knell of the Roman Republic, which had stood for nearly 500 years. They feared he would soon declare himself king, a title the Romans had despised since they overthrew their last monarch centuries earlier. This fear and resentment began to fester, and a conspiracy started to take shape. The ringleaders were two men you've probably heard of, Marcus Junius Brutus and Gaius Cassius Longinus. Cassius was the pragmatic, fiery instigator, driven by a deep-seated hatred for tyranny. He saw Caesar as a direct threat and was determined to remove him by any means necessary. Brutus, on the other hand, was a more complex figure. He was a respected philosopher and a descendant of the man who had founded the Roman Republic by expelling the last king. He actually admired Caesar personally and had been pardoned by him after fighting on the opposing side in the Civil War. For Brutus, the decision to join the conspiracy was a torturous internal conflict between his personal loyalty and what he saw as his patriotic duty to save the Republic. It was this internal struggle that would make his betrayal so legendary. Together, Brutus and Cassius recruited around 60 other senators. These weren't just random malcontents. They were some of Rome's most prominent men, many of whom owed their careers and even their lives to Caesar's mercy. This is what makes the plot so chilling. It was an inside job, carried out by Caesar's own friends and allies. They called themselves the Liberatores, or the Liberators, believing they were acting for the good of Rome. They set a date for their assassination, the Ides of March, March 15th. Why this date? It was the day of a scheduled Senate meeting, and Caesar was expected to attend. Crucially, it was just before he was due to leave on a 3-year military campaign against the Parthian Empire. If they didn't act now, their chance would be lost, and Caesar might return even more powerful and popular than before. As the day approached, the tension in Rome was palpable. According to ancient historians like Plutarch and Suetonius, the omens were not good. Tales of strange lights in the sky, unsettling dreams, and sacrificial animals with missing organs spread through the city. Caesar's own wife, Calpurnia, had a terrifying nightmare the night before the Ides. She dreamed she was holding Caesar's murdered body and begged him not to go to the Senate meeting. On the morning of March 15th, Caesar was genuinely hesitant. He was not feeling well, and, influenced by Calpurnia's pleas and the worrying omens, he considered staying home. This is a critical moment. If he had listened to his wife, history would be completely different. But the conspirators had a plan for this, one of their own. A man named Decimus Brutus, not to be confused with Marcus Brutus, was a close and trusted confidant of Caesar. When word got out that Caesar might not attend, Decimus was dispatched to his house. He skillfully manipulated Caesar, mocking the superstitions and telling him that the Senate was waiting to officially grant him even more honors. He played on Caesar's ego and his sense of duty, essentially telling him it would be rude and unbecoming of a man of his stature to snub the Senate over a woman's dream. Decimus's persuasion worked. Caesar changed his mind and decided to go. As he left his home, a soothsayer who had previously warned him to beware the Ides of March was in the crowd. Caesar, now feeling confident, reportedly joked to him, "The Ides of March have come." The soothsayer chillingly replied, "Aye, Caesar, but not gone." Caesar made his way to the theater of Pompey, where the Senate was temporarily meeting. As he walked, a teacher named Artemidorus tried to hand him a scroll that detailed the entire assassination plot, naming every conspirator. He urged Caesar to read it immediately, telling him it was of vital importance. But in the bustling crowd, with so many people trying to hand him petitions, Caesar simply passed the scroll to his attendants to be read later. The warning, a literal lifeline, was lost in the shuffle. This was the final tragic missed opportunity. Once inside the Senate chamber, the plan was set into motion. Mark Antony, Caesar's loyal co-consul and a formidable general, was deliberately delayed outside by one of the conspirators. They knew Antony would fiercely defend Caesar, so they needed him out of the way. As Caesar took his seat, the assassins gathered around him, pretending to present a petition. The chosen petitioner was Julius Caesar, who was asking for his exiled brother to be pardoned. This was the signal. As Caesar knelt, he grabbed Caesar's toga and pulled it down from his neck. This was the sign for the attack to begin. The first to strike was Publius Servilius Casca, who lunged with his dagger but, being nervous, only managed to graze Caesar's neck. Caesar, a seasoned soldier, sprang into action. He cried out, "Vile Casca, what is this?" and stabbed Casca's arm with his stylus, a sharp writing instrument. For a moment, it seemed he might fight them off, but then the others swarmed him. Suddenly he was surrounded, a lone man against dozens, each one armed with a hidden dagger. They stabbed him from all sides in a frenzy of violence. According to the accounts, he stopped resisting when he saw Marcus Brutus among his attackers. Seeing the man he had mentored and treated like a son coming at him with a dagger was the final blow. It was at this moment that he is said to have uttered his famous last words. While Shakespeare immortalized et tu Brute, the historian Suetonius suggests he might have said in Greek, kai su teknon, which means, "You too, my child." Regardless of the exact words, the sentiment was clear. The betrayal by Brutus was what truly broke him. Caesar then pulled his toga over his head, accepting his fate, and collapsed at the base of a statue of his former rival, Pompey the Great. The irony was immense. Caesar died at the feet of his vanquished foe. The aftermath was not what the liberators had hoped for. In their idealistic vision, they thought the Roman people would hail them as heroes for restoring the Republic. They ran into the streets shouting, "Liberty, freedom, tyranny is dead." But instead of cheers, they were met with stunned silence and fear. The public was horrified by the brutal murder of a leader many of them adored. The Senate was thrown into chaos. Rather than restoring order, the assassination created a massive power vacuum. Mark Antony, who had been conveniently detained, seized the moment. At Caesar's public funeral, he delivered a masterfully manipulative speech, reading Caesar's will aloud. The will revealed that Caesar had left a considerable sum of money to every Roman citizen and had bequeathed his private gardens to the public as a park. This turned the already grieving populace into an enraged mob. They hunted down the conspirators, burning their homes and driving them out of Rome. The assassination, intended to save the Republic, did the exact opposite. It triggered a new and even more destructive series of civil wars. On one side were the liberators, Brutus and Cassius. On the other was a new alliance, Mark Antony and Caesar's young and previously unknown great-nephew and adopted heir Octavian. This young man, only 18 years old at the time, would prove to be even more politically ruthless and brilliant than Caesar himself. Within a few years, Brutus and Cassius were defeated and took their own lives. Then, Octavian and Antony turned on each other, culminating in the famous Battle of Actium. Octavian emerged as the sole victor. He consolidated power, took the name Augustus, and became the very thing the conspirators had killed Caesar to prevent, an absolute ruler. He became Rome's first emperor, and the Roman Republic was gone forever, replaced by the Roman Empire. So, the Ides of March wasn't just an assassination. It was a catastrophic miscalculation. The conspirators, in their attempt to preserve their vision of Rome, inadvertently destroyed it. The story is a timeless lesson about unintended consequences, the complexities of morality and how personal ambition can be cloaked in the language of patriotism. The death of Julius Caesar is not just a murder mystery, it's the dramatic, bloody end of one era and the birth of another. Thanks so much for watching. What do you think? Were the conspirators heroes or villains? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this deep dive into history, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you never miss another video. We'll see you next time.